I enjoyed talking about writing with Kevin Gooden and wanted to follow up with something he said in response to my final question. What writing advice would you give to your younger self? After mulling the question over, Kevin said, to write. Of course, he was more eloquent than that. I'll play you his response to my question. The clip is only a few seconds long, and then I'll talk to you about how he expanded on it afterward in an email to me. Here's the clip. If you could go back and give one piece of writing advice to your younger self, what would you tell him?
Um, it might be easy to say, find the time to write. I don't know that I could have in my career, though. I really don't. Um, but I would say right now, especially, would be just to keep going, keep trying, don't give up, keep writing. Um, there's a lot of information about writing and things to read and courses to take, and you can spend your whole day learning about writing. But I think the most important thing is to write.
Here's what Kevin wrote in his email. I have been mulling over the question you asked about what I would say to my younger self, and I believe I said to write. Something I didn't tell you was that I didn't finish writing my first story, Killer Sandwich, love that name, because when I added a detective character, the writing sounded to me like a little kid had written it, which at 10 years old was actually the case. And here's a bit I thought was really interesting. The problem was, we had many books in our house when I grew up. We actually had a library room stacked with books. So I had already read all the Hardy Boys and Agatha Christie books when I wrote my story, and was unconsciously measuring myself against established adult writers. So I'd say to my younger self, who didn't finish that first story, don't worry about sounding like a kid. You are a kid, and the fact that you are writing stories is wonderful. People 5 years older than you are reading your writing and rolling around on the floor laughing. Keep at it. Anyone who writes is a writer. Yes, I believe that. Whether or not you ever get as good as writers you're comparing yourself to depends on how much you practice. Good luck. I thought Kevin's reply was bang on. I really agree with Kevin here, and it's something I wish I'd known when I was younger. So I thought about how I would answer the question. If I could give my younger self a writing tip, what would it be? There's three things I want to talk about. First, the disadvantage that reading a lot, and so developing a fairly good sense of what kinds of writing you like and what kinds you don't, brings to writing. Second, why writing can be taught, as well as what kinds of people can be taught. Spoiler, those who want to learn. And last, as Kevin basically said, don't compare yourself with others. Compare yourself with who you were yesterday. So, first point, the disadvantage of writing a lot and how this makes writing one's first million words more difficult. Someone far more observant than myself once said that those who have read a lot, both good and bad, end up being able to tell, and I hate putting it like this, but good writing from bad writing. The problem is that we can tell good writing from bad writing, but not be able to write well. Just because we have that inner sense doesn't mean that we ourselves are good writers. In fact, unfortunately, it does mean that if you have more than an intuitive sense for a well-written story, that you will also have greater problems completing your first million words. Why? Well, because you will be able to tell that your writing is lacking in one area or another, which of course it will be. No one is able to pick up a pen at, say, age 7 and produce a short story Neil Gaiman would be proud of. It doesn't work like that. It's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, it is essential to have that inner sense, but on the other hand, it can make it very difficult to plow through one's first million words. Okay, so my second point. Writing is like bricklaying. You just need the passion. Writing is a skill that can be taught. We don't come out of the womb invisibly stamped either as writer or non-writer. Yes, sure, I think some of us, because of who we are more inclined to think that it would be awesome to be a writer and want that enough to read about writing and write regularly and get feedback on our work and hang out with other writers. But I think that anyone who has that set of desires, of wants, has whatever it takes to be a writer. My third point. Don't compare your writing to the writing of others. Another thing I would tell my younger self, if I could, would be to compare herself to how good she was yesterday rather than how good someone else is today. Everyone is unique. That means you are the best in the world about one thing. No one can be better at being you than you can. Writers tell me, oh, I was going to write a story based on a certain idea, but then someone else did. And sure, fine. If someone else used a particular clever twist you thought of, then that might be a problem. But if it's a general or universal idea, for example, an orphan child attends a magical school, then go ahead and write it, but pour yourself into it, your uniqueness, and it will be a completely different story from any other story that has ever been written. Guaranteed. Thank you for listening. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'll talk to you again on Tuesday.